Hello, is it on? Are we on? Yes, very good. May I ask everybody please to take a seat? Thank you. If you were wondering who that odd voice was, it's me. Hello, everybody. Oh, so here we have a group. Sorry, there we go. That's slightly better. I'm allowed to take my mask off, but we have absolutely taken some incredible measures to be able to make this event happen during these COVID times. So I'd like to thank everybody for their tolerance to sit 2 meters away from each other, even though I know we have families together that are being separated. I'm sorry, we couldn't work with bubbles. It would have gotten too complicated. I'd really like to thank you all for coming and tolerating all of these measures, but really you all know that they were as necessary as they are. I'd like to thank everybody for coming. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Right now we have people watching us live on the YouTube ministry channel, and we also have people that have tuned in through RTL. They're live streaming our event today also. So once again, thank you very much. So which camera am I looking at? This one? No, not this one? There, very good. So hello everybody, thank you online for tuning in. If you would like to continue with the education conversation, please do so. So you have a place there to leave some comments. We'll have a look at the comments every now and again and just make sure that if there's anything super interesting, of course, we'll bring it on stage and acknowledge those. Before we carry on to our first speaker, I would like to say a couple of thanks. TED is an organization which is all about ideas worth spreading. And of course, there are ideas in every field. TED originally stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. For the longest time, I actually thought that was Technology, Education, and Design. Because when I think of TED, I always think about an educational platform. As it turns out, that wasn't the case. But TED does take education very seriously, which is why they have a very specific license for a TEDx education event. So I thought, let's see if that would be possible. So the TEDxLuxembourgCity team approached the Ministry of Education and said, would you be interested in helping us with an event where we discuss education? Not only did they say we're interested, they say this is exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for a platform to connect with the people of Luxembourg to talk about education, which was an amazing thing to hear. As an event organizer, having somebody that's willing to give you that kind of support was fantastic. So I'd really like to thank the Ministry of Education for co-hosting this event together with TEDxLuxembourgCity. So please, can I have a round of applause for everybody that represents the Ministry of Education? As part of organizing this event, then, of course, we thought, how can we make this very involving educational institutions? So I have some special schools to thank who really embrace the concept. You'll notice we have some incredible decorations on stage. So this is directly from the Lycée Agricole, who came very early this morning to set up this wonderful stage decorations. I have to say, it's very, very unique. Beautiful. I'd also like to thank, for those of you online, I'm very sorry, but you don't have the goodie bags, which everybody here in the room has. Those goodie bags were actually organized, ordered through a project in a class through the Lycée Technique de la Langue. So I'd really like to thank them for everything they've done. And finally, together with the Lycée Arts et Métiers, we had a number of interns that were looking into making our social media plan. So the reason that you're here watching us, the reason that you're here today, is because most probably you heard of us through our social media. So we very much have the Lycée Arts et Métiers to thank for that. So thank you also very much to them. Please. Wonderful. Shall we begin? Yay! Very good. Right, lovely. Our first speaker today, I'm going to move straight on to him. I can see him waiting. Jos Bertem. Now, Jos is, I know in his TED Talk, the same as all the speakers, they can't come and talk about how wonderful they are. They can't introduce themselves and speak of their incredibleness. But Jos has done incredible things with the ENAD here in Luxembourg. It really is a school, when it was explained to me, the ability to offer people second chances is just phenomenal. And the things that he's done with that school are absolutely amazing. So may I possess Jos Bertems.
So, good afternoon. When I look into the audience, I see that a lot of you already finished their school career with success, I suppose. But are you aware what were the real factors for your success in education? As Dirk explained it, headmaster of a school for young adults, I am deeply concerned with learning success, and I deeply and profoundly believe that by changing the learning cultures in our school, we can make learning success and academic progress available for nearly everyone. But how can schools change their learning culture in order to support their students and to foster learning capacities? To explain this, I will rely on elements that were discovered many, many years ago by the Greek philosopher Aristoteles in his essay, Rhetoric as the Art of Persuasion, where he identified, I'm waiting for the screenshots, where he identified three essential elements which are famously known, and we will certainly see them at some time. They are known as ethos, pathos, and logos. These elements are mostly used in communication theory, but what I will do, I will take these elements and I will transpose them into an educational system in order to show the relevant changes for learning culture. So let's start with the first one, ethos. Ethos is related to credibility, in education, teacher credibility. The educational researcher John Hattie, in his book Visible Learning, has found out that teacher credibility is the fourth strongest influence on learning out of 150, and amongst the teacher-related elements, it even comes out first. So how can teacher establish credibility? In fact, there are not that many studies about it, but all conclude that teacher credibility is closely related to three essential qualities: professional competence, trustworthiness, and goodwill. Professional competence means essentially the mastering of subject knowledge and the didactical ability to translate it into learning situations. Secondly, the students must be able to trust their teacher when it comes to learning situations, but all in their personal relations. And third, the teachers need to show goodwill, especially when dealing with errors, because errors are an essential element in the learning path of the student. So we see that teacher credibility is a two-sided notion. On one side, you have a professional dimension, and on the other side, you have a more moral connotation, which is linked to trust and goodwill. The second element, pathos. Pathos comes from the Greek heart or feelings. In education, we should call it empathy. Empathy, in opposition to sympathy, is the ability of a person to put herself in another one's shoes without becoming confused with them. And as soon as schools start to develop situations in which the teacher, but also the students, can see themselves as a possible version of the other one, then they can start to work together on a common goal. One possible way for this would be installing tutoring in our schools. Tutoring means that every teacher in the school community is responsible for a small number of students which he sees on a regular basis, every week individually. And in this trusted environment, where the teacher and the student meet at the same eye level, they can talk, they can discuss, they can identify problems and work on solutions. Schools could even extend this cooperation by installing student tutoring, where the younger students are tutored by the older ones. Studies show that these student tutoring even has a very nice side effect. It lowers the numbers of conflicts between the students, because during the tutoring, students are used to and are more eager to speak up when it comes to telling about differences. Of course, not all conflicts could be avoided this way, but even in situations where students could get along, there is still the possibility of the adult tutor to step in order to sort things out. When I look now at ethos as credibility, pathos as empathy, what does logos stand for? In communication theory, logos stands for logic or decisions that make sense. Now, if a school wants to establish credibility, if a school wants to foster cooperation amongst and with students, the organization of the school has to be such that it supports these goals. So here, logos relates to coherence or consistency. This would mean for schools that they would no longer be seen as a loose collection of individuals that teach a certain number of subjects, but it would be a community that shares a common goal, that has a shared vision, obviously, on teaching and learning. So this establishment of an organization could be seen very difficult by some of my fellow headmaster colleagues, because they are in schools that have way over 100, even 200 teachers, and they would wonder, how the heck should I do this? In these situations, the notion of small pedagogical team becomes a driving force for the change, because we would no longer see schools as a huge anonymous body, but we would subdivide the schools into small pedagogical teams with a limited number of teachers addressing a limited number of classes, which will work together every week and addressing two main focuses. The first focus would be the monitoring of the students' progress. The monitoring based on the feedback of the teachers, the feedback of the tutors, and the development of remedial situations when they identify problems, both academic or personal. The second element will be the development of learning situations which fosters the students' strengths and not only focus on their weaknesses or failures. These learning situations will also be coherent to the claim of the Canadian psychologist Albert Bandura, who says that schools should develop more and more the students' feelings for self-efficacy. Or, just to put it another way around, schools should tell more often the students that they are capable of, instead of only telling them that they are not capable of. And these learning situations should also help to develop the self-esteem of the students, their self-reflection, and develop a sense of responsibility and participation in their own educational project. So now, when I look at this kind of pedagogical triangle, ethos, pathos, logos, or we say credibility, empathy, and coherence, these elements cover a lot of learning culture in our schools, but they do not address everything. So I would like to add two other elements, which I call telos and kairos. They are Greek too. So telos relates to the notion of purpose or end goal. For instance, in our school, we welcome a lot of young adults who come to our school looking for a second chance in education. And the first thing that we do when they come to our school, then we sit down with them at the table, but physically. We sit down and we try to identify a goal, a project that they will work on during the school year. This could be identifying a degree that they need for entering the job market or obtaining a diploma to continue their studies at a much higher level. This identification of a goal is also very important for the restoring of the desire for learning, which most of them lost. Desire in psychology is defined by the identification of an absence. Love is the longing for the loved one, hunger, the need for food, and motivation comes from the identification of a project, a goal that I will work on. And this identification of a goal will, in our conception, take place during the tutoring. This is very important because this identification of a goal is a very, very delicate process, because it requires to adjust or to adapt the learner's ambition to his or her potential, and this could be quite tedious in some situations. But once the student has defined, with the help of his tutors evidently, has defined his goal and his way of achieving it, this is a major asset for learning culture and learning success. Last but not least, kairos comes from the Greek opportunity or right time. We all know, from big experience, that early school leavers who have left school without obtaining a diploma, they were, at the moment where they left, it wasn't for them the right time, not the right curriculum. And when they come back to school, it's the kind of moral obligation of the school to raise their chances for success. One possible way of doing so would be the analysis of the learner's biography, looking together with him at his past, what his ambition were, what his failure were, what the reasons for his failures were, then looking at what is the situation now and what we could define as a support for his project. Now, this opportunity could also be adjusted by taking some orientation testing in order to identify the right track for the student. And even if during the school year it would turn out that the chosen path isn't the right one, the school should be so flexible to allow the student to change his plan instead of waiting until the end of the school year when there's nothing else left to do than to acknowledge failure. So, in conclusion, if we don't want to become passive observers or even masters or managers of failures, then these 5 elements, ethos, pathos, logos, combined with telos and kairos, are essential elements of a learning culture in our school, and they will be massive game changers in order to achieve academic progress for nearly everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jos. Wonderful. As every student of mine over the last 16 years of my teaching has heard the communication theory of logos, pathos, and ethos, I hope, and I've just had a text message, oh, that's what you talk about. It is indeed. So they all know about logos, pathos, and ethos. So thank you for relating that to schools. We, in our effort to try and make this a truly inclusive kind of event, we launched an idea competition. So together with the Ministry of Education, we put out there the message for any young student between the ages of 12 and 18, if they think that they have a really good idea that's worth spreading, we invited them to go ahead and submit their idea directly to us. Now, we didn't quite realize how many people would be submitting their ideas to us, so we spent a little bit longer than we anticipated trying to pick from the masses of students that submitted ideas. But we did. So what we have here is our very first. Unfortunately, we couldn't just pick one. It was impossible. So we picked 2 idea competitions. Our very first idea competition winner, I have to rewind a little bit to sitting in that room with a number of people together talking about all the different ideas. And I spoke out and said, well, this idea is about video games in schools. And I thought, really? Now, I don't play video games very much, so of course. But I had a number of people in the room that said, wait, That's genius. I want to hear what this guy has to say. So we video conference him. Amazing. Giacomo, come onto stage.
I imagine a day where I come back home from school, and as usual, my parents ask me, "How did it go, Giacomo?" Or, "What did you do today in school?" And I say, "Today? Today we played video games for hours." Video games? For hours? Yeah, we had a long test about Rocket League, and we even played a game that helps us recognize fake news on the internet. And imagine, for a moment, that this situation could actually be real. Wouldn't this be amazing? Today, I'll tell you more about my idea. Playing video games at school should be an essential part of the education system. And if you really think about it, this idea is really worth spreading, and it would help millions, probably billions of kids in the future. Sorry. If you think about it, oh wait. Yes, because playing video games can certainly be very entertaining, but it can also be a powerful tool to teach something important. The fake news game I mentioned before actually already exists. It's called Bad News and has been invented by researchers at the Cambridge University a couple of years ago. I guess we all know how a virus works by now, right? Well, the purpose of the game is to immunize the public against bad information, like the virus, by letting players take on the role of a fake news producer. Therefore, as you can see, we really need to hurry up and catch up with reality. Now, let me tell you why I think that playing video games at school would be a good idea. Video games are fun, video games can benefit you in positive ways, and video games can open up many more job opportunities in the future. So let's explore together these three important aspects. Video games are fun. Well, who can deny that? Believe it or not, more than 3 billion people play video games every day. And that's almost like 40% of the world population. And you know what's the average age of a gamer? Have a guess. How many of you think it's between 12 and 20? Raise your hands. And how many of you think it's above 20? Raise your hands. Well, it's 34. Yes, 34. This shows that video games are entertaining, not just for kids, but really for everyone. Even my dad plays video games on his phone. His favorite one is FIFA, obviously. Secondly, video games can benefit you in real life. Various studies show that kids who play a lot of video games have better intellectual and social skills because of some of the social and collaborative components in some types of games. Think about Minecraft. When I play Minecraft in the survival mode, I have to survive by playing with my friends and helping each other to acquire resources, to build structures, and to maintain health. Trust me, it sounds easy, but it's not. It also seems that learning to think fast and strategize in a fantasy environment is a skill that can translate to the real world. Kids who play strategy-based games have better problem-solving skills and therefore tend to get better grades the next school year. But hey, let's be honest. I'm not saying that video games are the holy grail and should be played 24/7. I think that if video games are played at school with the support of experts and psychologists, then kids can learn more about some of the risks associated and the negative impact on their life. Just think about game addiction, social isolation, dangerous contact with strangers, gambling, and betting. I really think the kids need to be more aware of some of these side effects of video games. Finally, video games can open up many more job opportunities in the future. Just think about these few figures. The video game industry is estimated to be $200 billion by 2023. And just to put things in perspective, the global film industry, which includes streaming platforms like Netflix, plus the global music industry, have a combined revenue of only $125 billion. And the video game market increased more than 100% in the last 10 years. This, of course, does not mean that all kids playing video games can have a brilliant career in the video game industry or become the worldwide champion of League of Legends. I just think that if the passion for video games is combined with the guidance of teachers, then this might open up really great job opportunities for the future. After all, video games are all around us, and they're already part of everyday life for many of us. So why not take advantage of that and use them to learn a profession or start a career path? In conclusion, I think that playing video games at school is going to be the next big step for humanity and will help generations to come. Thank you. Thank you.
Incredible. By the way, I didn't mention, and I should have, do you understand that Giacomo is 13 years old? Right? Exactly. So let me ask you, what were you doing when you were 13 years old? Because I wasn't making TED Talks at that time. I have to say, I did tell him, listen, if you forget where you are, take your notes out, read it, and what we'll do, before we upload the video to TED.com, what we'll do is we'll just snip those parts out. So if you imagine those parts snipped out, that was one of the best TED Talks that I've seen in a while. So well done, Giacomo, really well done. So where do you go from video games? Well, you know, the TED journey is supposed to be a little bit of everything, right? So where do you go after video games? Well, of course, you go to singing in primary school. May I welcome to stage our very next TED speaker, our TED performer, Jeff.
Hello, my name is Jeff Elschrud, and I am a teacher. When I was asked to take part in this TEDx event and to contribute to the musical part of it, the first thing that came into my mind was a friend of mine, whom I had the chance to work with for several years. He wasn't even a musician, but a simple teacher, like me. And I always remember him complaining that we did not sing enough at school. He was often laughed at and not taken seriously in his ideas, although he was completely right with his attitude. Because which better way could there be to learn math, sciences, or languages than through singing or using a song? As for myself, I remember performing an Italian song at the age of 5, thanks to a teacher who did really a great job then at the local child choir, where I was a member of. Not only did she make me sing at the local Spurkäse party in front of some 100 kids with their teachers, she also offered us songs in all kinds of languages. You can imagine me sitting there singing Arita Notamajo. I didn't get a word what I was singing. It should be al ritorno dal maggio. And for a reason that I don't know, she didn't explain to us either what we were singing. But I got the sound of the language into my ears, and it would remain there until later on I know all the other languages similar to it, and it was inspiring to me in the same way. I guess this teacher really was quite an inspiration to me and for my later career. But let me tell you of a more recent personal experience at school. My kids asked me to use more English at school, next to German and French, which I teach, because English would not figure on the official curriculum at elementary school, as you know, in Luxembourg. So did I, and to my big surprise, they would understand everything. Don't forget, they are between 11 and 12 years old, although only 2 of them were familiar with the language. So when asking them why they would understand everything, you know what they should answer me. Through singing, through performing songs, by YouTube, and so on. So my kids have known me now for more than 2 years, and they perfectly understand that there is a song for every topic or situation at school. And like they would like to say, or rather sing, évidemment, France Gall, very helpful with French adverbs. Or what about je t'aimais, je t'aime, et je t'aimerai, to use when you want to learn French past, present, and future times with them. And to stay with the French participe présent. Quand j'étais petit garçon, je repassais mes leçons en chantant. Thanks, Michel Sardou, for this special moment where you tell us that you could even better do love when singing. We had a very good moment at class at that time. As you might have noticed, most of the songs I use are rather old. So, as a side effect, we learn history too. And by analyzing all these texts, like the one from Michel Sardou, you will notice that there is even more to discover than only music and history. I'll give you another example, this time for sciences. How to learn sciences with a song. And please let me introduce a very popular song here in Luxembourg, which would be Kap, shallak, kneya face, Kap, shallak, kneya face, dan, on, nues on the mond. They would touch not the right parts when performing it, but they got the sound in their head and they would remember it. Too old school, you think? Okay, let's use one direction to face the math problems. Now take off 100 and or then 24, then divide by 2 and add on 7 more. And if you're struggling now, it's not hard to tell, you don't know. Your math skills are terrible. You want to preserve kids from repetitive words when they write German text. Use this song. Da, 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 which would mean and then, and then, and then. I promise you, they will never use it again once they saw the song. But let's sacrifice some more moments to this beautiful, although difficult German language and see how my kids deal with the use of times and modal verbs. Als ich ein Baby war ich noch klein. Das soll bei Babys ja so üblich sein. Ich hatte nur 3 Haare auf dem Kopf und rutschte durch die Wohnung auf nem Topf.
Aber jetzt bin ich groß, seht mich mal an. Ihr werdet staunen, was ich alles kann. Aber jetzt
Als ich ein Baby war, war ich noch lieb. Ich war ein ganz besonders süßer Typ. Nur in der Nacht, da fing ich an zu schreien. Waren alle wach, dann schlief ich wieder ein.
Aber jetzt bin ich groß, seht mich mal an. Ihr werdet staunen, was ich alles kann. Aber jetzt bin ich groß, seht doch mal her. Jetzt kann ich Zähne putzen, Hände waschen, Schleifen binden, Treppen steigen, Päckchen packen und noch vieles mehr.
A big thank you to the ministry department from Script who helped me to make this movie. So, people around the world have definitely recognized the importance of music and schools, and things are quite developing quite quickly, not only in tiny Luxembourg, but also here at the moment. So these colleagues that I mentioned helping me from the Script, and whom I cooperate with quite regularly, they confirm that the demand for music and for support in this concrete domain is really increasing. I give you some examples, and our minister will love it, I think. Special jobs have, in fact, been created by the ministry to assist classes in creating whole musicals, and we did one last year that you could see at Mersch, and it was quite a success, I guess. The Ministry of Education recently engaged a person whose major work it is to keep school and cultural institutions related, which I think is very important because there's still a problem between the two as it appears. And no later than last week, our minister announced that a new bachelor in music teaching, starting in 21-22, at Luxembourg University in collaboration with the 3 conservatories of our country. Thank you for that. But apart from the importance of songs at school and all the efforts being made here, I always knew that music was important for my private life too. I only didn't always see how to combine it with my job. So I started taking lessons at the conservatory and taking part in the smaller projects. And people hearing me performing and seeing me on stage, they wondered and they asked me how I was doing this and how I managed to do my job and these performances at the same time. So being on stage in the evening and giving lessons the other day. The answer from me is in evidence. It is because I do this that I am so at ease at school. I can be myself at both places, have success on stage, which I transport to school, and get satisfaction at school, which gives me wings again on stage. Something I would highly recommend to anyone doing the job and wanting to persevere. So let me finish my little excursus by stepping back to the inspiring French songs, more precise to a French singer and songwriter. Some of you might still know him. He's called Jean-Jacques Goldman, and I sang his text when I was a kid, like my kids are now. And I randomly rediscovered one of his songs, and I realized that it perfectly resumes the message I would like to pass here and now at this particular place. You don't need 3 master titles or 2 doctor diploma to be a good teacher. With your heart at the right side and always some music in it, you can achieve everything in education. You can change lives. And listen how Jean-Jacques Goldman would say it. C'était un professeur, un simple professeur, qui pensait que savoir était un grand trésor, que tous les moins que rien n'avaient pour s'en sentir, que l'école et le droit qu'à chacun de s'instruire. Il y mettait du temps, du talent et du cœur, ainsi passait sa vie au milieu de nos heures, et loin des beaux discours, des grandes théories, à sa tâche chaque jour, vous pouvez dire de lui, il changeait la vie. Merci.
Wow. You know, I have Luxembourgish language classes that I'm sure would be a lot easier if we had teachers like this in our class, wouldn't they? Why is it only acceptable for kindergarten teachers to have teachers like this, or kindergarten classes to have teachers like this? From one incredibly fabulous, I think we can all agree, teacher, our next speaker, Liz Kramer, did some incredibly fabulous things when it came during COVID times, when things got so difficult, with her UP Foundation. The things she did to engage with people, to engage with children all around Luxembourg were absolutely incredible. And so it is with great pleasure that I'd like to announce our next speaker, Liz Kramer.
Good afternoon. Well, if somebody had told me a couple of years ago that I would stand before an audience like this talking about education, I would have laughed. Because I was and I think my family too, especially my brothers, I was a very average student, but I was passionate with lots of subjects. And this passion made me move. And I'd like to ask you, what do you think, what crosses your mind when you hear the word education? And probably where you are standing in schools or vocational training, you would say school. And you're right. Well, partially right. Please hold this thought, and I promise you, you will revise it as we are crossing the world of education in the next couple of minutes. And I promise you that I will not talk about school or talk about education per se, but I will talk about learning. And I will dedicate this talk to all the learners we are. My first consideration is that every human on earth is constantly learning. So we might be very different, all of us, come from different countries, have different backgrounds, speak different languages, but we have one thing in common, and this is that we are constantly learning. And I would like you to represent the fact of learning as being an act of exploring a kind of landscape with different regions. And as we are in Luxembourg, this landscape could look like this. Have you seen the Philharmonie? It's a very nice concert hall in Luxembourg. Or do you see the cliffs of Müllertal? Müllertal is also a very famous spot in Luxembourg. It's also called Little Switzerland. Or perhaps you see the forests of Luxembourg with the trails. Or certainly you see also the lake, the Stausee. And this is a very famous vacation spot for the people in Luxembourg. So what I'd like to tell you is that just imagine that, that the Müllertal represents formal learning, and formal learning is delivered by schools and by vocational training institutions, also by universities. And it's a kind of hierarchically structured and chronologically ordered lessons, and it leads to diplomas and certificates. But have you seen these cliffs, these steep cliffs? Where they are difficult to climb, and you need a lot of endurance and skill and knowledge and motivation to get on top of it. But every top you climb is with great views, and every attempt to climb the top must be valorized. You see the Philharmonie. Well, the Philharmonie stands for non-formal learning. This is kind of optional but organized learning that are delivered from institutions, organizations, associations, and you do it when you're at leisure, after work, it's piano lessons, it's a football training, it's a scouts, it's a concert. And all these activities, they would not help you in your calculus homework, but they are very essential for your development. The Stausee represents informal learning. And informal learning is this kind of unplanned, unintentional process of learning that you do on leisure with your family, with your friends. For instance, this TEDx evening is really a good example from informal learning. We learned a lot and it was not planned, but we learned a lot, all of us learned a lot. White learning would be represented by the forests of Luxembourg. You have many trails to be discovered. And this wide learning is something that is very important. They are spontaneous and sometimes risky actions. And they are important for kids and for youngsters to get explored. Could you, for instance, imagine that you would live one day on Mumbai Street? Well, there are many kids in Mumbai that do not go to school, but that they know their way around and they could teach us, or many of us, a lesson of two. So this is the landscape of Luxembourg, and it represents the landmarks and the sites of Luxembourg, but it could be anywhere. It could be, for instance, if in Costa Rica you would see the rainforest, and the Swiss, they would depict the Alps. But it doesn't mean where it is and what it looks like, but what it entails. And my point is that all of us are constantly crossing and meandering those regions of learning, and that they are all equally important. My second consideration is that every human on earth is eager to learn. I think you know Obelix. Well, he fell into the pot of magic potion when he was a child. And this magic potion gave him this superhero force to ward off the Romans. And all of us have this force in us, this magical power, this curiosity and eagerness to learn. And this curiosity we have it as from our childhood, because without it, we are also, all of us, potential scientists. As from the beginning of our birth, we are like exploring our paths and the world. And this eagerness to learn doesn't end with childhood. It is a lifelong progress. So my third consideration is that who learns gets intelligent. And as we are all learning, we are all intelligent. For millions of years, our brains have been evolving, putting us on the top of the food chain. And we are so fond of our brains that we don't realize that we are getting to be dethroned by man-made machines and their artificial intelligence. A computer starts to learn, and who learns become intelligent. But what is intelligence? You might say, well, most of you might say it's a kind of measurement of the intelligence quotient, the IQ. But this kind of measurement could never evaluate the individual's capacity at its full extent. There are more types of intelligences. And Howard Gardner, who was an American psychologist, he spoke about multiple intelligences. But the Luo people in Kenya, they have another theory of intelligence. They distinguish 4 species of intelligence. Rico means knowledge and skill. And that is kind of intelligence that gets promoted in school. But the Luo people, they have 3 other kind of intelligences. Luo, paro, and vinjo. And luro stands for respect and care of. Vinjo stands for understanding and comprehension, the disposition to share. It's something like empathy. And paro represent the personal capacities like innovativeness, and also the fact, the creativity, and also the fact to go through with your ideas. So this kind of intelligence meaning is like what we call emotional intelligence, to cope with our emotions, to understand them, and to cope also with the emotions of the people around us. To conclude, I would like to say, let's diversify our understanding of learning and of intelligence. Let not only rely on RICO. Of course, RICO is very important and helped us develop rapidly COVID vaccines, and even probably will help us navigate the next pandemic. But there are other forms of intelligence, and we have to look for their benefits too. Morality, empathy, creativity, fantasy, humor. When we raise our kids, we should experience their many activities, indoor and outdoor activities, and tell them that they are learning activities, and that they, with these activities, cope with their emotions. Because unlike machines, we human, we learn with emotions and feelings, with joy, and sometimes with sadness, with deception, with fear. And all the more reason to strengthen our luro, vinjo, and paro. If we acknowledge only one single selective aspect of learning and intelligence, our world is at risk for poverty, for misinformation, for dictatorship, for inequality in education, and the lists go on. So our society, to progress, must rely on the wide range of intelligence and learning. And we have to commit it to. But who has to commit to? It's you. It's me. It's us. It's civil society as a whole. Because education needs society, and society needs education. And let's not forget the next generation. They can, if we only empower them to be the subject of their learning and of their life.
Ich kann Leute helfen.
Ich kann.
Je peux.
Ich kann.
Eu consigo.
Je peux.
Ich kann.
Je peux.
I can.
We can.
Je peux changer le monde.
Thank you.
Gosh, that was a particularly emotional talk, in fact, for me. I hope you felt the same. But just this concept of not constantly going after the RICO, as Liz so well put it, the intelligence quotient that everybody always measures, but just the creativity and all these different elements of our intelligence are so important. And it's something, the empathy that you mentioned, it's something I try so hard to talk about in my lessons. Thank you very much for that talk. That was wonderful. Thanks, Liz. I'd like to allow you now all to, okay, how do I put this? You're not officially allowed to go on a break. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, for those of you that need to have a toilet stop, some of you may need a cigarette stop, whatever that is, could you please do so in an orderly fashion, staying away from everybody near you? Please, if you need to go outside, you may do so, of course. If you need to go to the toilet, of course, now would be the time to do so. But I would urge you, as soon as you've finished, to please come back, come to your chairs so that we can do so safely. And in order to really convince you to come back, we've even got a lovely break performance. Somebody once said to me, have you ever heard Luxembourgish folk music? I said, no, I really haven't. So I would like to introduce you to Zhang, who in fact works here at the Forum, and he's a particularly talented, he's blind, and he's a very talented musician. So Zhang, if I can ask you please to come up to the stage. If I can ask one of the team please to bring a chair as well. Thank you very much. Thanks, Serge, for helping. So for those of you that need to, by all means, please take a break. We'll open the doors and let you out. And for those that are here, please enjoy our music.
Sagen ein Stück, das ist ein bisschen so Fado-Portugiesisch, aber das von Cap Verde, das von Cesare Evora. Das ist... Saudade, este Lied. Mostrabas caminho longo, mostrabas caminho longo, esse caminho para Santo Tomé. Mostravas caminho longe, que mostravas caminho longe, esse caminho para Santo Tomé. Que mostravas caminho longe, que mostravas caminho longe, esse caminho para Santo Tomé. Escrever, bota escrever, que vou esquecer, bota esquecer, até o dia que vou botar. Que vou escrever, bota escrever, que vou esquecer, bota esquecer, até o dia que vou botar.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes, lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jean, for for entertaining us so very nicely. Lovely. How are you enjoying it so far? Very good. I'd like to thank also the people online. I've seen some really great messages, so thank you very much for all the for all the compliments about the organization and for all the speakers. It's really nice. For those of you that want to carry on commenting, if you use the hashtag TEDxLuxCity, then we can all see each other's comments. That would be wonderful. Thank you. By the way, for this second half, we have some pretty remarkable speakers. I know, obviously I'm going to say that, aren't I? But really, I'm talking about a magician, and not just a magician. We had David Goldrake at our last event, and he was good. But honestly, this one? And she's only 17, so you're going to love her. But before she comes on stage, I'd like to introduce Leah Sitborn. Now, before you come, let me just quickly say, when we were discussing what are we going to have on stage about education, so we came up with a lot of different ideas, and somebody mentioned, what about when you're ultimately incredibly successful with your classical education, and then you go on and you do everything that you're supposed to do? What happens? So we were introduced to Leah Sitborn, who really has the very, very best of a classical education. But she's not doing what everybody might expect. For the rest of the story, let her tell you. Leah, please come to the stage.
The story I will share tonight, review, starts with this picture. I was 5 years old, threading beads, making my first necklaces. I was creative. I used to love to draw. I used to paint. My parents thought they would give me the best education. So I had the opportunity to go to well-known schools. I studied at Lycée Henri IV, École Alsacienne, in Paris. Did my preparatory classes at Lycée Henri IV and IPSUP. I graduated from Paris Graduate School of Management, ESCP Europe. I did an exchange program at Stanford University in the MBA. Later on, I completed an international directorship program at INSEAD. This classical education gave me, obviously, the sense of hard work, rigor, and structure. This led me naturally to a corporate life. So I started to work for Ernst & Young in the Silicon Valley. I worked there for the entrepreneurial consulting group. Then I moved to London to work with Triangle Management Services, to work as a consultant in logistics. Eventually, I did a move towards the financial sector to work for large institutions such as Fidelity Investments, Merrill Lynch Investment Managers, and AIG in London and Luxembourg. I enjoyed corporate life, according, obviously, to the project and the people I was working with. But I was happy to make a break, and once in my career, I had the chance and the opportunity to make a trip to Tahiti. This trip to Tahiti was a life changer. My parents used to travel to Tahiti every year. When I was 20 years old, my parents started to go there every year. They discovered the lagoons of Tahiti and the pearls. Tahitian pearls are sea pearls, oyster pearls, that provide the most natural colors in the world. So I had the opportunity that summer to discover this culture and pearls. I must say that I fell in love with pearls. And I thought, why not take this beautiful material, natural material, and make different jewelry out of it? Why not associate it with other types of materials, such as, for example, turquoise or coral, to make something different? A lot of jewelry with pearls are pretty classical. And there, my project was born, and I decided to go towards this entrepreneurial journey. Obviously, in Tahiti, I decided to educate myself about pearls. So I had the opportunity to visit farms, To train my eyes, I bought pearls, which I brought back to Luxembourg with me. I got contacts with professionals there. I went to the Ministry also of Pearls, got information, documentation, which I brought back with me to Luxembourg. This documentation I still use nowadays with my clients. I also bought the machine, which I'm still using to piece my pearl, a Japanese machine, Yotsuba. And this was a great experience. I also started to learn jewelry techniques. For example, braiding, such as braiding leather. And this was great. So I'm coming to my point tonight about education. What I realized in Tahiti, and what I realized because I decided really to go for a totally different field, was that I needed to pursue my passion to really educate myself. And this is the key message I will share with you tonight. I came from a very different sector, from a very classical background, and I decided to move really towards another field. And from there on, I really kept on educating myself. This is the key message. If you have a passion, then it's great. You should keep on educating yourself to pursue your passion. But if you don't, it's okay. But you still need to educate yourself to move towards your passion. You need to push your boundaries and to go further. This image is very personal to me. It is inspired from the pearl. The pearl is green, as a lot of pearls in Tahiti. The first name of my letter opens as an oyster on the pearl. It refers to my main phrase, color your charm. Each person can find their own colors. Each person can find their own pearls. Each person can create their own charm. Following this stay in Tahiti, I really decided, and this is my classical part coming back to the surface, to formalize my knowledge of pearl. And this, obviously, came via the study of gemology. Gemology is a science of natural pearls and stones, of gems. It enables you to make the difference between natural materials, imitation. You can understand the treatments, for example, of certain materials. Gemology is a field which is constantly evolving. Initially, I had the opportunity to study to l'Institut National de Gémologie in Paris. Then, I had the great opportunity to study at the Agate Gem School in Nice. And there, a lot of advices were given me about the tools used in gemology. And I invested in a lot of these tools, especially this microscope. Also, as this sector is always evolving, I keep updating myself via a lot of webinars, information given, for example, via the GIA, the Gemological Institute of America. And this is a way, once again, to know what is going on in the world and to be good at my job. I know about new minings discovered, for example, new treatments about stone. And once again, I come to the same idea that we need to keep educating ourselves. Once I had studied gemology, I had to become an actual jeweler. Jewelry making gathers a lot of techniques. It can be work about metal, for example, heating metal, bending metal, creating effects with metal, soldering, setting stones. It can also be assemble stones together, pearls, work with wire, thread beads. once again, I had to educate myself. For example, I followed evening classes that were given at le Lycée Technique de Bonnevoie back then. I also went to Paris to have private classes. Eventually, I surrounded myself with jewelers. I'm currently working with two jewelers. We obtained this way the label Made in Luxembourg. We were the first ones to obtain it in Luxembourg. I started to create my jewelry at home, and I opened a showroom in Hollerich. Having a showroom enabled me to receive my clients upon appointments and gave me the flexibility to go for training again and education. This is the press coverage, some of the press coverage we got at the opening. 2 years later, I decided to combine the workshop and the showroom together in a very large space, 160 square meters in the Grund, next to Neumünster. This was wonderful because this was also the opportunity to show the work of different artists, not only jewelers, but also painters, sculptors. We had exhibitions. This was also a connection point. And it was an opportunity to develop myself as well. There in the Grund, I hired also a Jew with me, who was coming from Germany, and I carried on training myself about jewelry and especially metal techniques. This is the press coverage we had. Also, we had a lot of press coverage when we opened in the Grund. This place in the Grund was very large, and it enabled us also to create a lot of events and conferences that would be also a source of learning and education for me. For example, we organized a big exhibition with Le Pôle Bijou Baccarat, which is a big knowledge center in Baccarat, in France. We had an exhibition about the innovation in the field of jewelry, the history of jewelry techniques. We had conferences. And in the shop, in the Grund also, I organized a lot of conferences from suppliers that came to explain the stones, the pearls, and that would help our clients also educate themselves about the materials. 2010 was a turning point. I joined a competition organized by Microsoft in Luxembourg, which was called Boost My Business. I took this opportunity, really, to think how technology would enable us to improve our processes and to change the way we work. And I think this is why we won the competition. There were 80 companies taking part in the competition, and we could win sponsoring. We could win training, also, education, again, about technology. And this opened also an awareness for me about the technology and the need to really keep up to date with the technology if you have a business. This is a coverage also, press coverage we received more when we moved to the city center of Luxembourg. And this was, once again, a new journey in the project. There, I had to go and present my project to banks to finance the purchase of a store. This was another difficulty, being a woman entrepreneur, going to present my project. This was tough. To help really carry on my project, I joined la Fédération des femmes chefs d'entreprise from the start. I'm currently vice president of this association. This association gathers 200 women entrepreneurs in Luxembourg that had their own business. And at that time, this association gave me really contacts, tips, ideas to move on and to pursue my passion. I'm also a member of different types of associations in Luxembourg, such as Féminin Pluriel, such as Femme Leaders. This is the current shop in the city center, sorry. This is the atelier that we have kept developing. And I want also to show you how, via education also, our jewelry has evolved. That means that we started with custom jewelry, and we went towards high-end jewelry, even though we still show custom jewelry, and we still work on all levels of jewelry, and this is a choice in our project. For example, in 2008, we did a collection. We had a big exhibition in Paris, professional exhibition. So we had to, for example, decide and develop technical drawings. We had to work in quantities, select stones in quantities, source stones, also work with suppliers, deadlines, finances. And this was, once again, a new learning. We also do a lot of bespoke work. And bespoke work is really specific orders for our clients. This can be, for example, transformations, creations. Here you can see the technical drawing of a piece, the starting point. You only see part of the work we've done on this one. And what I want to say about the bespoke work is that there is a lot of knowledge, education, we share with our clients, and they really appreciate it. This slide, for example, shows you how the price of a stone can really vary tremendously according to the color of a stone. Here you can see, this is an aquamarine, you can see that according to the blue of a stone, the price can be multiplied by 4 or 5. And this we need to explain to our clients. Why? The same is true for pearls, obviously. You wouldn't pay the same price for a pearl which is round and for a pearl which is semi-round. I'm coming now to a very important point of a presentation which is more about the future, really, of jewelry making. And technology is really changing this world. And we needed really to embrace that change. So I had really the opportunity 2 years ago to work with Lux Innovation on our business plan. And we could participate in the Fit for Digital project. This was a great way to work with a consultant and really to identify the areas of our business where we could really invest. This was another opportunity, really, to educate ourselves about new options. For example, we invested in laser soldering and engraving. We invested in a digital microscope, which is once again related to gemology. That means that if a client comes to us, brings a stone, we can actually use our microscope, dive in the stone 170 times, which is a huge magnification. And our clients can look at the inside of a stone and the occlusions on their smartphone. This is also education. Also, a big trend in jewelry making, and this is transforming the industry, is really the 3D design technology. And I had to train myself for that. I had to travel to Antwerp to purchase the software and really get education about the software. This tool enables me nowadays to create designs. As you can see, these are designs, for example, we created recently. So to work directly with our clients online, we can change the color of a metal, the width of a band. We can do anything. We can even print the piece. So we can print the piece 3D, and our clients can really view the piece in volume. We can even position the stone on the piece, so on the resin. We also invested in the casting technology. E-commerce and social media is another huge area of development. For example, during these times recently, we really invested in the e-commerce platform. This was another opportunity, really, to work with professionals. So we had to find the right person to help us for that, to identify the right platform, because creating a website is really about creating the platform, about writing the right text, about coming up into the Google search of SEOs, the images also. The professional photography is also related to the website, really an area where I needed to do a lot of searching. I hired photographers to help me and to educate myself, for example, about the lighting, the technology, the settings, the photo editing. And this is all part of education. So I'm coming now really to the main idea. As you could see from the description of my project, really, and from my history is really about education and constant education. So you could see that from each step to the following, I had always to push the barriers. And while pushing the barriers, I could really sustain my passion. This is the key message for you tonight. It's really via constant education throughout life that you can really pursue your passion. And I've left a golden key for you here, which you should really treasure. I hope this key helps you unlock your potentials, help you grow, and you have to believe in yourself to really push your boundaries. And you have to keep educating yourself. Thank you very much.
So I have to say, then, I'm going to let you into a little bit of a background to this. Whenever we talk to speakers and whenever we work with speakers, we always look for a really strong ending, of course. Every TED Talk that you've ever seen, it has a strong ending. And so Leah and I were sitting together at one point saying, well, Leah, what is your message? She said, well, it's about keep educating yourself. I said, well, that's a great message. She said, yeah, that's the key. I said, yeah, but we need some kind of slogan. Like, how are we going to put that together? Something about keep educating yourself. And we're looking at the words, keep educating yourself, and nobody clicked. It just didn't click. And then suddenly, she just drew a circle around the K, E, and the Y, and there it was. Keep educating yourself is the key. Didn't you think that's a cool? It's almost like it was made by professionals, wasn't it? Fabulous. Right. I did promise you something spectacular. And here it is. I mean, we have other spectacular stuff as well, of course. But I have to say, I'm a little bit of a fan of magic. So and as you may have seen at the Philharmonie, where we had David Goldrake, and he's amazing, he's wonderful. It's very difficult to get hold of some of these magicians when they become very, very famous. And they're everywhere, and they happen to be in Las Vegas or here. So somebody said to me, you know, we have a great magician here in Luxembourg, and you know what? She's not famous quite yet. She's only 17. I said, well, you know, show me a little bit of her act. So I saw her act. I was blown away. So I hope that you are as blown away as I was back then. Emma, are you ready?
Yes.
Let me present to you Emma Schütz.
Hi, my name is Emma Schütz and I'm 17 years old. I'm a student at Lycée des Garçons in Esch. But besides studying for school and doing sports, I have another passion. And this passion is magic. Ever since I can remember, I have been interested in magic in all of its forms and beauty. Almost 10 years ago, I got my very first magic box, and this box changed my life. Oh look, this is me when I did my very first magic show. Since then, a lot has changed, and I have now the honor to present to you my best magic tricks that I have developed over the years. So please, enjoy. Hello everyone, so my name is Emma Schütz and I'm a magician, and this is probably the weirdest way to present yourself, but yeah, let's move on. Okay, so today I will present to you my favorite magic tricks that I have developed over the years. And we'll start with this one, and for this one I have here a deck of cards, and as you can see, all the cards are different. Now I need someone in the audience. What about you? Do you have a favorite card? And if you don't, you can just come up with a random card. Just name any card. You here in the front row. Just name a card. Okay, so the Ace of Spades. Why did you choose the Ace of Spades? Is there a special reason to it, or is it just random choice? Okay, so what I want you to do now is concentrate on your card. Because for me, what magic means to me is belief. And if you believe in magic, it really may happen. So just concentrate on the card and forget everything around, okay? And as you can see, there's one card flying out of the deck, and this is, of course, your Ace of Spades, and it's the only Ace of Spades in this whole deck. So thank you for your help. For my next trick, I want to tell you a little story. So when I was a kid, I used to write down or to draw my wishes in a little wish book. And so every time when someone came up to me and said, hey Emma, what's your wish for your birthday or for Christmas? I grabbed my book and just grabbed on a random page, and that was my wish. And I still do this, and this is my new wish list. And now I'm going to show you a trick where I need a very, very special assistant. So please, can I get a huge round of applause for the deputy headmistress of my school, Lycée des Garçons, H-sur-Alzette, Mrs. Rita Bola. Hello, how are you? Okay, so maybe you can stand here if that works. Thank you. What I want you to do right now is just grab into my wish book on a random page and pick a wish. I will lend you one of my wishes. So as you can see, all the wishes are different. Let's say here's, for example, a book or an e-bike or an iPad, just random stuff, okay? So just grab on a random page, and very important, don't let anybody see your wish, and keep it in mind, okay? Have you got one? Okay, so this is now your wish. And maybe you can write it on this board, but don't let anybody see it, okay? And if you're done, just place this here, but upside down. Okay, so I'll try now to read your mind, and this is really hard, okay? Just concentrate on your wish and look me in the eyes. It's something pretty expensive, pretty huge. Am I right? Yeah, I know I'm right. Okay. I have your wish actually here. Okay, so are you ready? Yeah, this is it. An iPad. No? Okay, so can you give me another chance, because it's pretty hot with the mask, I only see your eyes. Okay, wait, maybe some magic movements, and yeah, I can fix this. Okay, so this was actually just a joke. Your actual wish is inside, but I was pretty close, I know. AirPods. Yes? Am I right? No? Okay. You know what? in magic, it's always important to look ahead. So can you please now reveal what your wish was? Because I have really no idea. Can I reveal it? Yeah. A whirlpool. Can you tell me how am I supposed to get a whirlpool in this room? This is really hard. Okay. Wait. Maybe I can just take my magic wand and the magicians always say something like abracadabra. Yes. Can you please come here and open this box and see if maybe it somehow worked and there's some magic happening? What is inside? Inside of this box, there's actually a card in the block, and it says whirlpool. So thank you for your help. Okay, so for this next trick, I'm gonna again need the help of you. And before I start this trick, I want you to know that you can take all of the decisions, and I won't influence you in any way. Okay, let's maybe start with you here at the front, okay? So I'll just now drop cards on the table, and you can stop me whenever you feel like it. Right there? Okay, which card do you want, number 1 or number 2? Number 1. Okay, now a very important thing is that nobody in this room, so not me, not you, not anybody else, knows what your card is, okay? Keep that in mind. Now I'll do just 4 piles. Yeah, number 1, okay. 2, 3, and 4. Okay, the next decision, what about you? Name a pile, 1, 2, or 3. Okay, which one do you want me to turn around, number 1 or number 2? Okay, so look, I will now shuffle the cards face up and face down into each other. Next pile, number 1 or number 2? Number 1. Which one do you want me to turn around, number 1 or number 2? Okay. So again, I will just shuffle them face up, face down. Now, the most important decision. It's very, very important. Number 1 or number 1? Which pile do you want? Take a moment. I know it's really hard. Good choice. Okay, now the trick will work. Which one do you want me to turn around? Number 1 or number 2? Number 2. Okay, so now we have a big mess in this deck. But with just a snap, I can fix this. And all the cards will be turned face down again. Do you believe me this? No? Well, check. Okay, I'm sorry, you were right. You know, sometimes in magic, it's also important to accept mistakes. Wait, no, that's wrong. It's not accept mistakes. What's the word? Correct mistakes, yeah. Okay, so maybe I can fix this. Yeah, just some magic movements. And maybe if you have a close look, we actually fixed it because you somehow managed to shuffle all of the hard cards face up. But not only this, also in the correct order. Look at this. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. But there's one card missing, which is the 6 of hearts. Do you remember at the very start, I asked you to stop me at any card? And wouldn't that be perfect if this card would be the 6 of hearts? So let's have a look. And it's actually the perfect match. Okay, so now this is my big finale, and this is something I have never shown before. So I'm pretty excited to show this now to you. And for this trick, we need all of you in this room. But I need someone with me here on stage. And so I have now the honor to ask my headmaster to join me here on stage. So please, can you give a huge round of applause for Mr. Pascal Bermes? Can everyone in this room please take out the 4 cards in your bag? Hi. Great. Okay, so before you came here, there were bags on your seats, and every bag contained 4 playing cards. Just take them out. And you can shuffle them if you want to. You don't have to, but yeah, do whatever you want. Okay, now I want you to hold the cards like I do it here, just like this, and rip them in half. All the 4 cards. Rip them in half, and you can decide which half to put on top and which to put on bottom. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Okay, so now you should have one big pile. And then what you do next is you take 1 to 5 cards. It doesn't matter. Let's say I go with 3, and you put them at the bottom of your pile. You can also take 1 to 5 cards, and everybody 1 to 5 cards, just choose a number. It doesn't matter, and put them at the bottom. Perfect. Now let's do this thing again. So I take, in this case, let's say I go with 2. So I take 2 cards and put them at the bottom. You can do the same thing. You can choose a number. Okay, next, can you name a number between 1 and 5, please? 3. Okay, so everyone take 3 cards, but this time put them in the middle or almost in the middle of your pile. So, like this. Okay. Now here comes the funny part. Can you name a number between 1 and 5, please? 4. Everyone take 4 cards and trade them with the person next to you. And if you don't have a person next to you, well, then just keep them and trade them with yourself. I don't know. I'll trade them with you. And put them in the middle of your pile. So just like this, in the middle. And we'll do this whole game again. So a number between 1 and 5, please. 2. Everyone take 2 cards and trade them with the person next to you. And put them in the middle. Okay, now we're doing a process of elimination. I think I messed up my trick. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I messed up. Yeah. Can everybody take, please, back your 4 cards that you had at the beginning, and we'll just start again and pretend that this didn't happen? Okay, let's just say that this never happened. So, hello everyone. So today I will present to you my favorite magic tricks, and this is the last trick. We already arrived to the last one. Okay, so take your cards, rip them in half. Oh, this was really fast. And then you can decide which half to put on top of which. So, let's say I go with that one. And now, let's say everyone, you can choose a number between 1 and 5. Let's say I go with 3. And put the cards at the bottom of your pile. And do the same thing again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter, and put them at the bottom of your pile. So you said 3 earlier, so let's go again with 3, and just put them in the middle of your pile, or almost in the middle. And now, I'm sorry, here's what I forgot. Take the top card and just put it in your pocket or sit on it or do whatever you want. Just keep it. The top card. So you take 3 cards, put them in the middle, and then you take the top card. Okay, so now we're gonna meet a new person next to us. So please, can you name a number between 1 and 5? 5. Take 5 cards and trade them with the person next to you. You've probably never met them before. And just place them in the middle. Okay, so now we'll do this whole game again. Can you name a number between 1 and 5, please? 2. Okay, so take 2 cards and with the person that you just met and just put them in the middle. Okay, so now we'll do a process of elimination. So you take the top card and put it on the bottom. Top card goes on the bottom, and next card you throw it over your shoulder, it's for the good luck. Okay, and then you take the next card, put it at the bottom, and the top card goes over your shoulder. And the top card goes at the bottom again, and throw it over your shoulder. And then you put it at the bottom, the next top card, and the next one, guess what? Throw it over your shoulder. Put the next card at the bottom, and throw it over your shoulder. And again, at the bottom, and throw it over your shoulder. Now, this was a long trick, I'm sorry. But I'm left with one piece now, and somehow I managed, with a little mistake at the beginning, but I somehow managed to have a perfect match. And this is now my lucky card, and if this worked for you too, so if you take the piece out that you didn't on, or maybe it didn't work, and so you found your lucky card, and if you didn't, well, I'm sorry, but it will bring you luck in the future. And so I thank you for listening and participating. So thank you so much.
You know what they say about live TV, right? It's just one of those things. By the way, while Emma was throwing those cards over her shoulder and was inviting you all to do that, my team right next to me was saying, who's going to pick all these cards up? So, which is fair enough. So maybe in order just to avoid pollution and whatnot, if you might just quickly pick up those cards, that would be very kind of you. Yeah, sorry about that. Right, very good. Well, honestly, isn't she spectacular, though, as a magician? That was really good. Well done. Very good. May I ask if one of the team or somebody can please just come and occupy this front seat? So anybody, or if somebody from the back of the room wants to come and get the best place in the house, it's literally front and center. Yay! Very good. I've just moved it to the side. There you go. Very good. See, there's a young man who knows a good spot when he sees it. Very good. Well done. Thank you very much. Right. We mentioned we had that idea competition. Excuse me. We mentioned we had that idea competition, and of course, there were 2 winners. So we had a brilliant talk earlier. Thank you very much, Giacomo. And then we were thinking about, well, what are we going to do for our second talk? What is it? What kind of subject should we like? Because there were so many really good ideas. But of course, we were looking through all the speakers we had, and there was one very, very clear subject that we were missing so far. And we know at this point it is such an important consideration, and that is the topic of mental health. We can't possibly go through a TEDxEducation event without discussing mental health and what that's been doing to our young people over not just the last year, but over the last 10, 20 years, and how we need to make some changes. So instead of going to consult the very top psychologists and psychiatrists and whoever else might help, we actually found the best idea from a student. May I invite to you our second idea competition winner, Emma Lassar.
Yesterday morning, I just opened my messages as you do in the morning, and my mum was standing right next to me. So I'm just like scrolling through my snaps, and there's nothing in particular, so I'm okay. I look over to my mum. She's in absolute shock. So I start rethinking, did I open any messages that had offended her or were in any way inappropriate? But nothing comes to mind. So at this point, I just start panicking, like, why is she reacting like that? And then she goes, is she okay? What? The girl who sent you that video. What video? She was crying and cutting her hair. Apparently, it's not normal to cut and dye your hair when you're not feeling well. Who would have thought? Oddly enough, this has been somewhat normalized for my generation. Now, you might be thinking, what is she trying to say? Well, I believe that a bad mental health has been normalized, and most people my age do not know how to deal with it. This is not something new, is it? A bad mental health is not a new theme. Why are we not talking about it? A discussion with elder people makes me extremely uncomfortable, like if you just had interrupted them on the toilet. And to be honest, this behavior does not change with the younger generation. Let me ask you a question. How are you doing today? No, seriously. How have you been doing this week? Have you really been doing well, like you have been saying? Now, the weird thing is, quite a lot of people feel uncomfortable when asked these questions. Almost like if you're not allowed to answer honestly if the answer is not well. This is an enormous problem. The simple subject of mental health has been made so taboo, we can't really think about it. But why? Why would a subject like this be taboo? A subject that impacts every single one of us. One reason is there's a certain non-said rule in society to be happy. A non-said rule that says you can't be sad or have any negative feelings, even though that's completely normal and valid. There's certain toxic positivity that tells us if I am sad, I'm going to make the people around me sad. My favorite example for this is the other day when my friend was having a bad day. Her cat had died. So we were trying to comfort her. Then one of my other friend goes, just be happy. To our great surprise, she did not feel any better. With a bad mental health, you need to get help, right? So help can be talking to family, friends, or going to therapy. I guess that's another reason why mental health is so taboo. There's so many stereotypes around therapy. You know, that place insane people go to. A therapist is a bit like a doctor for your mental health, right? So why can't I go there if I have a problem? Even if it's a minor one, it might evolve. It's also important to go for checkups on a regular basis. And if you do not feel at ease with your therapist, just go to a new one till you find one you like. In general, you should look after your mental health on a regular basis by focusing on yourself and make sure you are doing well. And I have realized over time that well-being is divided into 3 major parts. The first part being the emotions, the second part being the soul, and the third one being the body. They are all connected and are crucial for well-being. We need to actively look after all 3 of them. I'm going to start with the body. Some ideas for looking after the body are sports in general, but also more relaxing aspects like yoga and stretching. The good thing about this is it's already partly in the school curriculum. Just by adding a bit more of a relaxing part, it could be completely in the school curriculum. And for anybody saying they don't like yoga, you have simply not found the right yoga teacher yet, like somebody told me a few years ago. I don't like yoga. Another thing we can do for the body is eating healthily. Simply by having, like you already have heard it thousands of times, a balanced and healthy diet, you should be good. So this is not going to extremes, which is eating too much or too little of something, or eating too much or too little in general. I remember when I just got into secondary school, you at once have all this freedom. Nobody's going to stop you from going anyway for lunch and eating anything. So I started binge eating, like I'd say most people when they get into secondary school, chocolate and anything that was off limits at home. This is the simple reason why there are no off limits or recommended foods. Because, like I just said, we tend to binge eat them when we get them. If you're feeling insecure about your body because people are telling you you're not perfect the way you are, they're not the ones to judge. The only people who can tell you if you're healthy or not is you and your doctor. Because in general, people try to aim for this ideal body that media puts forward that is, on one hand, often extremely unhealthy to obtain, but also impossible to a certain extent. The second part of our well-being is the soul. You know, that thing, God or the devil is going to come and take someday. The soul I have divided personally into 4 parts. The first part is the connections. Connections is connections to, for example, other people, but it can also be connections to, for example, a higher being, if you believe in God, or even a lake, a tree, or your favorite rock. Simply by going for a walk in the forest or being fully present when having a conversation is enough. When I mean fully present, so keeping eye contact and not being distracted by, example, your phone. I remember having this conversation a few years ago with some mums, and they mentioned that my generation does not know how to keep eye contact. So I guess we should work on that. Sadly, through the wearing of masks, the whole aspect of connection has been weakened. We started with social distancing and are now socially distancing. The second big part is communication. Communication is making your needs clear to other people. I have realized that people do not understand what you want unless you clearly tell them. For example, does my dad know I want a waffle right now and not just a basket of fruit? Probably not. I have not clearly told him. So you should really make sure to make your needs clear. The third part is knowing what your needs are, so also prioritizing them. What I mean by prioritizing your needs is making sure that you're prioritizing yourself and then the people that are important to you. I often tend to, even if I have a lot of work to do, not say no to people when they ask me for something. And just respecting this point means understanding that you have to put yourself sometimes forward and not other people, and just saying no sometimes. It's okay. We should all do this. Now, to the emotions. Personally, this is a very scary one for me. I have a hard time dealing with emotions because I tend to deny them, not only to myself, but also to other people. So it's a privilege doing this, but it's really intimidating too. So a good thing for emotions is writing them down. A good thing about writing emotions down, we could again include it in schools. We could encourage having writing about emotions in languages in the school curriculum, which would help students not only try and force them to understand and know what emotions they have, but through knowing what emotions you have, you also get to deal with your emotions. When you write them down, you can do it in any shape or form. You could do it, I don't know, a song, a poem, an essay, or even a whole musical. If you do the musical, please invite me. I adore musicals. Another way you could also do for dealing with emotions is just naming them. Simply by naming your emotions when you are happy, sad, scared, or angry will make you feel better. Also, just be honest with yourself and to other people to make yourself feel better. For me, it's extremely important to understand why I feel a certain way. Why am I cross, for example? When I'm angry, it tends to be because somebody has crossed my boundaries. So here we're back to the soul part with connections. I try to make my boundaries clear and tell people where my boundaries are. That way, these boundaries are not crossed again, and I don't need to feel this negativity again. Now, I would say we're coming to my biggest message in the talk, and something I really hope is going to happen. Something that would be amazing to have in schools is school counselors. Right now, in my school, we have school therapists. And in theory, you can go there, but people rarely go there. Most of my friends and a lot of people in my generation, not all, are very introverted. So they are incapable of even ordering pizza, let alone a glass of water at a restaurant. On one hand, it is extremely funny to watch for me, but it's kind of sad in the sense they can't, how do you expect these people to go to the school therapist? They are unable to do so. Even me, being an extrovert, hasn't even thought about going there because I tend to want to deal with my problems myself, and in general, I just deny them. I also let myself think my problems are just not important enough. Well, there are of course some solutions. For example, one of my friends started a cry count document. She shared it with a few of us, and basically we have access to it, and every time you cry, you write down that you cried and the reason why. I am proud to say that I'm in first place right now after having a concussion last week, but it's not really a solution. Because as teenagers, we're going through so many changes at so many different levels that we need someone to talk to. We could talk to parents, but it's just awkward having a conversation with parents, you know. Kind of, you just don't want to talk to parents about intimate things. Friends is neither a reliable source because in some friend groups, sadly, the simple theme of mental health is still taboo, but also some people don't have many friends. So having a school counselor would be a reliable source people could always go back to ask for help, to have somebody to talk to. The good thing about a school counselor is it's a grown-up who's specialized in it, so they know what they're talking about. On top of that, it's a good and neutral opinion and advice. The school counselor would have to be mandatory, for example, every 2 weeks for at least 20 minutes, because like we said before with a school therapist, not many people go there because they don't dare to. We need somebody to come to us. They'd also have to mingle amongst the students, that way we feel comfortable talking to them because, again, we don't want to talk about with strangers about our emotions. That'd be extremely weird. And I think the most important part that the school counselors would bring with them is making mental health less taboo, because us teenagers, future adults, would be used to talking about emotions, the body, and the soul. For anybody who is struggling right now or going through a tough time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. Just continue, you are not alone. To everybody, students, parents, teachers, anybody involved in schools, we are the ones who can make a change. By working together, we can integrate the 3 parts of well-being in the school curriculum and have school counselors. We need to work together to be able to do this. No voice is too small. And by working all together, we can make this happen. Stop mental health being taboo. Thank you.
Have you ever met a 16-year-old that was so in touch with her own emotions? That was really, really remarkable. Thank you very much, Emma. That was really touching. And actually, it was something, when she spoke about it, just the idea of having school counselors. I was lucky enough to go to different schools in many different countries in my life, but at one point, between the ages of 12 and 15, I lived in Brazil and went to an American school there. And it was remarkable. We were forced to go to a school counselor, and I didn't like it at the time, but actually, if you think about it now, is it a bad idea? And it's certainly something that Emma brought up for discussion. Our final speaker. You know, it's often said some people don't need an introduction. Well, this is a very friendly chap that I met fairly recently. A really nice guy. He goes by the name of Claude. Claude, may I invite you to come to stage, please?
What we see here in front of me, it's a box. It's a small box, less than 1 cubic meter in size. But it's one of our answers to the COVID crisis. No, this box is not filled with vaccines, masks, disinfectant gel. There's even no toilet paper in it. This box is filled with board games. And we distributed these boxes to all our primary schools, to all our classes. And we offered the children to take these games at home and to play with their parents, their siblings, their friends. Do you remember more than 1 year ago when this crisis began? Everything shut down around us. All our professional meetings, they were canceled. No more handshaking events like this we have tonight. All the kids' animation was closed. No football training, no ballet courses, nothing. And from one day to the other, we had plenty of time within the family. And for many of us, that was the best outcome of this crisis. Perhaps it was new and unusual, but we profited really from that time. Before the COVID crisis, my youngest son came every weekend to me and asked me, "Daddy, do you want to play a board game with me?" And when I agreed, then he chose Monopoly. Every Sunday or every Saturday, he wanted to play Monopoly with me. And I asked myself, why does he want to play Monopoly with me? Does he perhaps want to become a real estate investor with a big car in front of his office and a lot of money in his pocket? No, he's not that type of guy. And then I understood he didn't really want to play Monopoly with me, but he wanted to have time with me, because Monopoly is the game that takes the longest to bring out the winner. And that's not really surprising for me, because when I had his age, he's 10 now, my parents, they had a toy shop. And we were 3 boys, and for us it was fantastic. The toy shop was on the ground floor, and we lived upstairs. Sometimes we had the impression to grow up in paradise. And as eldest son, I regularly helped my father and my mother for special selling activities or when the new merchandise came in. And that was great. But the best of all was when on Sunday afternoon, when the shop was closed, we played and we tried out the new board games. That was real family time. And that was what happened around the world when the world closed down because of the COVID crisis. And I think now when I see this box in front of me, good memories are coming up in me. And I think I'm not the only one in this room who feels like that. Because playing games means spending time together. Playing games means also no phone calls, diving into another world. Playing games is something for our children, very natural. They need to play games. They want to play games. And all the scientists all around the world, they tell us and they agree that playing games is essential for the child's development, for its cognitive development, for its social-emotional development, but also for its physical development. You may ask now, what is this guy talking about? Are they really fighting here in Luxembourg COVID with games? Not from a virologist point of view, but certainly from a social-emotional point of view. Because what we have in this box, it's hours and hours of quality time. What we find in this box, it's the motivation to play together with siblings, with parents, with friends, with grandparents. It's a motivation to pass time together, time to talk, time to laugh, time to feel happy, and time to feel disappointed or sad or even angry. But there's much more in this box. In this box, there are even hours and hours of reflecting and thinking, of problem solving, of analyzing, of developing strategies to win the game, of course. That's what in this box. Playing games was a valuable pastime during COVID period, but it's much, much more than that. Let's have a look at what's going to matter in tomorrow's world. Teamwork matters. Communication matters. Creativity matters. Analyze of complex situations. Yes, that matters. Problem solving matters. And why is that all so important? Why is that so important to know how to communicate, to have good communication skills? Why is it so important to be creative? Why it is so important to know how to solve problems? Because these are skills that even the best computer does not possess. These are human skills, and they make us, as humans, most unique. And that especially in a digital world. Some human skills just can't be replaced by computers. Harmonizing with other people, trusting each other, relying on each other, collaboration. Sometimes computers even are disrupting than helpful in this kind of activities. I know what you're thinking now. Aren't computers really helpful when it comes to problem solving and analyzing complex situations? Yes, that's true, you're right. But the main question is, the essential question is, who's going to program the computer? And to program a computer, one of the key competences is just problem solving and analyzing of complex situations. That's what you need when you want to program a computer. But that's what we need all when we live in such a complex world that we are living today. So what we find in this box are all the key competences of the future. Every hour spent in games is an hour well invested. Because spending games means understanding the rules, developing strategies, reflect the moves of your competitors, hide what you're up to, entering into new partnerships. All this makes us human unique in the digital world, and it prepares us, and it prepares our children to the future. Education is the art of giving the children the competences they need to choose their school career, to have later on success in their professional life. But especially today, it comes to the ability to adapt themselves to the unexpected things in life. 1 year ago, one thing happened in all of our lives. It was unexpected, the COVID crisis, and we had to manage that, and it changed everything in our life. It changed our professional life, our social life, our private life. One thing I really loved in my job was to meet people in meetings, to meet people on the street, in the supermarket. People that were very interesting, and sometimes they made me change my mind. People that were disappointed and they wanted me to change the whole world in a minute. People that just couldn't stop small talking. I loved those moments when I met people. But from one day to another, those moments were no longer possible because all the meetings were digital. And of course, all the digital platforms, they had their advantages. You can manage raised hands. You can switch off your camera. In one of the first digital meetings I had at the beginning of the crisis, one guy wanted to mute me. And you must think that this is really something very special for a politician, to be muted. All we need is the ability to adapt ourselves to different situations. And of course, we can't find this all in this box. And it's not enough to distribute such game boxes to all our schools and distribute the games to all our children. Modernizing an education system and bring it to the 21st century isn't finally not so easy like that. And when we want to prepare our children to the future, let's take a look at what was possible for and necessary and normal for our generation or those generations before. Because digitalization does not change fundamental pedagogical principles. Preparing children to tomorrow for doing that job, it needs two things. Giving children roots and giving them wings. Because when we when we feel safe in a small community, when we trust each other, other persons and ourselves, then we dare to make new experiences. Then we want to reflect and search for new things. We want to discover the world. We want to understand the world. Our children need a good dose of this. They need it at home. They need it in their activities. They need it in care. They need it, yes, they need it in school. Not only in school, but also in school. That's what's important when it comes to rethink education. And it's our duty. It's our duty as adults. It's our duty as adults to give our children those roots. Because when they have roots, they dare to spread their wings. Therefore, we have to rethink education. For example, we need places to make new experiences. We have, for example, to make STEM courses more interesting. We have to bring science to life. We can do that in the classroom. We can do it also in the science center, but let's do it. We need rooms to be creative. Have you ever been in one of our maker spaces? This is a room in our secondary schools where students came in with an idea and they came out with an invention. We need innovation in daycare structures because education does not take place only in schools. It has to take place also after school and giving children and youngsters the opportunity to discover the world, discover their talents, discover their interests. We have and we need innovate in the school subjects. It's absolutely necessary nowadays to teach coding in primary school. But without screens, without tablets, without computers, in a playful way, adapted to their age. We have to teach digital skills and use digital devices and digital programs to teach. When I see my kids learning mathematics on a digital platform and having fun, learning mathematics and having fun, isn't that great? Then I understand that personalized learning tools are a real progress in education. We need to prepare the children to the risk of the digital world, making the difference between wrong and right. And that becomes more and more important in a world dominated by social media. And we need opportunities to discover and stimulate talents. And that's what we make in the small enterprises in schools or in other entrepreneurship initiatives. Children can awaken desires and learn to engage themselves. As I mentioned before, education is about giving roots and wings. And it's a lot about passion. The passion preparing little children to become strong individuals. The passion of learning and never stopping to grow. And this is what school is about. Never stop learning. This is what education is about. Never stop growing. because life never stops teaching. By distributing those game boxes to all the schools, we offered roots, and we also offered wings, and we offered a lot of passion. By distributing those game boxes to all our schools, we thought out of the box. We did something completely new, and yet something very traditional. Thinking out of the box is part of this passion in education. Sometimes trying to look different ways to learn, different ways to adapt our schools to tomorrow. When the whole world has changed, our schools and their environment, they just can't stand still. And if in the 21st century, education wants to remain true to its values, then it must not hide in its box. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. If I may ask the Minister to come back to stage. I would like, so as you know, we had the idea competition, and as a consequence of these two wonderful students having won this idea competition, may I ask the two students please to come to stage to receive a certificate from the Minister. There's a certificate.
Thank you.
So, Emma Lassar.
Thank you very much. I appreciate a lot your speech. Thank you and congratulations.
And Giacomo Gambino.
Congratulations. And I appreciate a lot your speech. It was fantastic. Continue like that.
Very good. Thank you very much. Lovely. And just on a final note, did everybody enjoy the event today? Very good. Do you all have a favorite speaker? You're not allowed to say the Minister at this point because he's on stage. Did you all have a favorite speaker? Yes, good. I'm not going to ask you which one. You know why? What I love about TED, people connect to different people for different reasons. That's what I really appreciate about it, and that's what many of the audience always say. So if I could invite all of our incredible speakers up to stage, just for one final photo, bearing in mind, please, to keep distance for all the speakers. So Jeff, if you'd like to come, our competition winners, please. Thank you. Oh, we're missing some of our speakers. One or two. Aha, our magician. Very good. And finally, Liz, thank you. So, can we have one final round of applause, please? Thank you very, very much. And of course, one final round of applause the speakers are going to give to you for being... Lovely, thank you very much. I think we had a really good idea. Can we have one photo? If we can turn the lights up in the room, it would be quite unique if we can have our cameraman. If those of you in the room, is it possible to turn the lights up? That's the problem if you do things spontaneously. Everybody in the technical team is going, what's he talking about? Yay, very good. Right, we'd like to take a picture. Can I have the cameraman up? We'd like to take a picture of you all. Could you please do the sign for X, like this? Above your heads. Lovely. Very good. Right, when I say go, you all have to say cheese, even though we can't see your cheeses. All right, but still, big X. Is there any chance of more light? No chance of more light. Okay, let's go with your silhouettes. They look beautiful. Do we got it? Fabulous. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye.